Is the mic on? Episode 49. What's wrong with Orny Adams? Let's talk radio days.
Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police with Yukon King, swiftest and strongest lead dog breaking the trail in the relentless pursuit of lawbreakers.
Yeah, it's,
in the wild days
no,
of
I don't.
Yukon.
You don't? You should.
It's Yukon King. I played Yukon King.
You're a radio guy. I'm going to bring this down.
Preston
My guest today is Frazer Smith. Now, when you go to your Wikipedia page,
Was that the Rick D show? What was that?
I don't know what that. I'll tell you in a second.
Oh,
Look, I was home.
yeah.
First, let me introduce you. Frazer Smith,
Hi, guys.
notable radio personality here in Los Angeles.
Well, thank you, Orny. You know, I wish camera 3 was working because
it's
I'm
on.
not getting a close-up.
Camera,
What happened?
camera 3 is fine. Let me
Oh.
ask you a question because you were KLOS. What else?
K-Rock.
What other Ks?
Everyone with a K I got fired from. KMET,
Yeah.
the legendary KMET, KLSX,
Mhm.
and K-Earth,
You know what's
and
interesting?
K-Mart.
And Kmart. I looked at your bio. The first thing it says on Wikipedia is Frazer Smith, also known as Frazier Smith. And I'm like, this is a joke.
Well, no, but I have a stunt double.
There's a misspelling in your name, and even I misspelled it.
Yeah, even my name is misspelled on the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, on my own page,
Well, how do you spell your first name?
just no I. Frazer.
And
No,
is
no
that
I.
short for something like Fonzie?
No, well, it could be. I feel like Fonzie a lot of times. No, that's my great-grandfather's name.
Frazier.
Yeah,
But why do I think it's Frazier?
because everyone does.
So all the club schedules have it spelt that
Oh,
way.
everyone spells it wrong. I'm now putting an I in there
Yeah,
myself.
yeah. I'm
Because
sure your dead grandfather's thrilled about that.
He's not excited about that at all.
So we'll get into this in a second.
Okay.
But I just want to ask you off the top of the show, because you're crossing your arms like you're uncomfortable. Because
I am very uncomfortable.
no, this isn't like we don't go.
No,
It isn't that kind of podcast.
No.
Now having done 49 of these, I realize all these years when I was making radio appearances to promote my shows, I was doing it all wrong. I want to know, as a radio guy, as a DJ, as one of the top DJs, like that's the rub on you.
Well, that's the other thing it says on my bio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes a great guest?
Well, I always think it's someone who goes off book a little bit because it tends to be kind of canned, as you know. You know, you go in, you have to do morning radio when you're on the road to promote the show. You come in, and the DJs have these questions, you know, on a piece of paper, and they ask you these kind of standardized questions, and it gets, you know, kind of samey.
Mhm.
Oh, same old, same old.
Right.
But if you let them get off book and you talk about things that maybe they didn't expect you to talk about, things you've seen in their town or whatever, or something crazy that happened to you on the way there or something, it just adds a little flavor as opposed to that kind of standardized, you know.
But that's what I
Interview.
would do. And I feel like I was disrespectful to all these hosts all these years. Like I would come in and I would treat it like I was Robin Williams on The Tonight Show. And I would just be all over the place and have fun. And they'd ask me a boring question. And I'd say, that's a boring question.
Well,
You
I
can't do
think
better
that's
than that.
exactly what you should have done. I know you did the right thing because I think that's what the audience wants to hear. They want, if they're going to go watch somebody that night, they want someone that's going to be wacky and fun and different.
Right, but I'm there to sell my show. They're there to do their professional show, which they've scripted out. Like if they're anything like me, if you look at me, I have pages and pages of notes for your appearance today.
That's so amazing because I've done absolutely nothing. But we'll see what happens. But I think really everything's a show. You know that? It's like when you go in for a job interview. It's a show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're an audition, it's a show. You're trying to put on something that will entertain people.
Right.
And so even if those hosts were thrown a little bit by that, later I think they probably appreciated it because it was something different,
Right.
something fresh.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what I felt like. I felt like I just want to sort of break the barriers, but at the same time, I was never really, in my mind, respectful for the amount of work that they had put into
Well,
the
that's
preparation.
probably okay because a lot of times you know how it is with notes. Notes don't always really, take in the direction you really ultimately want to go.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you want to have some fun. because that's what people tune into morning radio for, and that's what people go to stand up for.
Yeah. Do you know Man Cow in Chicago?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So Man Cow calls me and says, "Now that you've been doing this podcast, not so easy, is it?"
Yeah. Well, it's different on the other end.
Yeah.
You know, because you do have to have some kind of you're driving the ship when you're on the host side.
Right.
And when you do that, you kind of have a different dynamic. Yeah. It's not the same as when you're the guest. When you're the guest, you're kind of going off and being as fun as you can. And when you're the host, you kind of have to keep it going until you get to commercials.
Right. And what I was doing
or in podcasts where there are no commercials.
Yeah, and I'm always envious of the radio people, although it's really stripped down now. Now you go in to do promotions, it's just one person in a booth.
Because that's all that's left at the station.
They can't afford anything.
Everybody else is gone.
Art is
You're the sales department, you're the the news, the sports. And that's how I started in radio. I started at a tiny little station. I went to Western Michigan University.
You're a Detroit guy.
Yeah, I am. And Western's in Kalamazoo. It turns out to be a wild town, believe it or not. Tim Allen was in a bunch of my classes. We were at the same time there.
Wow.
And I got a job on a little station, and you had to do everything. You had to turn on the station. You had to do sports. You had to do news. And you had to pull it off of an AP wire back then.
And was this a paid position?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had to edit I'm like, I'm 17 or whatever. And you're editing all the news and the sports, and your record's ending, and you got to jump in and do sports. Then you got to sweep up the station afterwards and turn off the dials and do all the stuff. You learn everything that way, though.
Right.
And now it's gone back full cycle to where that's where stations can't afford a full staff anymore, a lot of them, the smaller ones anyway.
Yeah.
So it's back to that one-person deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a one-person deal, like you were making fun of, or sort of you were, I said, Frazier, how can I have, you and I have been friends now since I've been in LA for 20 years, and there are all these cameras, and I said, Frazier, how can I have somebody in here while it takes like a minute for me to set this up? And you said, people are very tolerant.
I think they are nowadays, because everybody's doing a podcast, and everybody has the same situation with the tech. It's new to a lot of people. We're not really tech people. So we have to tweak everything, and I think people are used to it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just
it threw me off a little bit. I mean, I was pretty ready to leave. I got to tell you.
Look, I got remotes. I can.
I was almost ready to leave.
Like, you have better lighting than me, but I can fix that.
Well, now wait a minute.
I can fix that.
I want the good lighting. Come on.
You're well lit. I look dark and ominous, and
well, that's how you're supposed to look. You're Orny Adams.
So quickly.
What's wrong with Orny Adams? His lighting. His lighting's been bad for years.
What you came out here, so you did that small job. And you didn't want to quit radio at that point?
I did want to quit. Don't get me wrong. No, I did that for a while in the Detroit area. I had a couple of jobs in that area. And then I had Cheech and Chong were on tour, and they came on my show as guests. And we had a great time. And they said, hey, you're a pretty funny guy. You ought to go out to Hollywood.
Oh,
so one day I was bored. That's the worst thing you
want to hear, right? God.
There goes your life. Right?
Yeah, thanks.
So I packed all my stuff up in my car and drove out. And I got a job pretty quickly on K-Rock. K-Rock was kind of the farthest end of the dial was K-Rock.
Right.
And it was kind of that kind of station, too. They were actually in a hotel.
Huh.
Yeah, they were in the Pasadena Hilton Hotel in a suite. And you go in, and there's room service trays piled up, and there's this old radio equipment that looked like something out of Flash Gordon.
It sounds like FBI surveillance. You're all set
I
up.
thought I was in a Mexican movie.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on, man. But it was, and all the DJs were like car dealers, drug dealers, just an eclectic group of DJ knuckleheads. And which was great because it allowed me to just go off. Right. I just went off. I just was a young, crazy kid. And
so you were in on the ground floor because they became one of the biggest stations in the country.
Yeah, they got real big.
Yeah.
And I got really big fast because nobody was doing what I was doing. I was just being a nut and playing. At that time, punk rock and new wave music were coming in, and the standardized old rock was kind of fading a little bit at that time. It didn't go completely away, but this new music kind of got all the eyeballs or ears to K-Rock. Everybody was checking out K-Rock.
First of all, who are you playing? And more importantly, did you break anybody? Any bands?
I broke some big bands, yeah.
Who?
Van Halen.
Really?
Broke Van Halen, yeah.
Nobody else saw that talent.
Well, I don't know, but I was the first to play them.
Who was your competition? Like WBCN in Boston?
Well, they were on the East Coast, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, here in town it was KMET, KLOS, And they had another station called K West.
But didn't BCN, I grew up in Boston, so they had like a program director named Oedipus.
Yeah.
And they were known for breaking bands.
Yeah, well, how this happened was they moved out of the hotel, K-Rock, into this little dress shop that was across the street.
Sounds like it's getting worse.
Well, it was, and it was run by mobsters. These ran the station, and they were just looking to sell.
Right.
So they were going to build some nice studios, but while they were building the studios, they had us in this little thing, this little building, and it was only 2 stories. So David Lee Roth used to climb up the fire escape and climb in through the window when I was on the show on Friday night and kick in the door.
Wow.
He'd go, dude, you got to play my test pressing. And I'd be like, get out of here,
Isn't
man.
it like that? Weren't you in a movie was there a movie with Adam Sandler where they held a DJ hostage?
Well, yeah.
Is it based on that?
Maybe, but I do know that movie, yeah. What was the name of that movie? Airwaves.
Airwaves.
I think. Anyway.
I think it was called 8-Track. It's so old.
Well, probably.
Yeah.
This was old too. But you know what was great about it was all the punk rock bands were coming up and they were getting a buzz. And I remember my first night on the air in Los Angeles, I met Deborah Harry, a couple of the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, and Tom Petty. Wow. And none of them had any product out, even Petty, not yet, And I got to play all those guys first. And the Van Halen thing, I played their test pressing, and the phones lit up. That's how you knew you had something viral back then.
What's a test pressing?
It was what you would play when you were trying to you'd record what your album was going to be and play it for the executives.
Huh.
Yeah.
And so
try to land a deal.
Do you keep in contact with any of these people?
I see them occasionally, not very often.
Yeah.
Once in a while I'll see David somewhere.
I find, and I like Petty, I love, like all these guys, it's, I'm pretty vocal about my love for Dylan, and I just never want to meet these guys.
I met Dylan, and it was interesting. Al Cooper, who, I don't know if you remember who Al Cooper was. He was the organ player in Dylan's band. And he also was in the, he discovered a lot of bands. He was a producer, discovered Leonard Skinner and a lot of big bands, Allman Brothers. And Cooper and I became friends, and he says to me, hey, come out and see me. My latest band's playing out in Malibu at this little bar called the Trancas Inn. And so, we're playing at Trancas, come on out on a Sunday night. So I went out to see Al, and I'm hanging at the bar, and I'm talking to this guy, and he's got a baseball hat and it's pulled way down, and we're just talking about just BSing, sports, whatever,
What year is this?
This was probably... Oh gosh, probably late 80s, maybe early 90s.
Yeah, so he was already well established.
Yeah, and we're talking, and having a good time, and he knew who I was. He go, "Oh, you're Frazer Smith." Yeah, man. So we're talking. Cool. So then Al walks by, and he goes, "Oh, I see you met Bob."
Yeah.
And then it dawned on me, wait a minute, that's Bob Dylan. Wait a minute. So then I got real tongue-tied.
Yeah.
I mean, we meet a lot of celebrities and stars out here, but Bob Dylan's something else.
Bob Dylan's on a whole nother level. To quote Bob Dylan,
that's a whole different deal. So all of a sudden, I'm just stuttering and stammering and blah blah blah. Hi, Bob, Before it was just an easy conversation.
He's got that song, the Hattie Carroll, that's something of the Ballad of Hattie Carroll or something. I can't remember the song right now, but they talk about how she was a cleaning woman and she emptied the ashtrays of this house on a whole nother level. And that was and it's always like those little words, he invents words.
The most amazing writer ever.
I wouldn't know what to,
Well, you know what's funny? When I went to finally leave, I go, keep up the good work.
Keep in touch.
I said, keep up the good work.
Keep up the good.
He looked at me like, you're an idiot.
Yeah. Minus Planet Waves or whatever. But
it was cool that he knew who I was. But
he's just sitting alone at a bar.
At a bar by himself, all by himself, drinking a beer.
I think I read a few years ago, he was wandering around his hotel in New Jersey and they thought he was a homeless guy. And the police stopped and they're like, do you have ID? And he's like, I don't have ID. It's Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
And he's older. And they're like, who's this homeless guy?
I read a story yesterday about Michael Douglas when he won his Academy Award. And he was staying in the same hotel as George Harrison. And he saw him before he went out to get the award. And he didn't really want to celebrate. He just came back to his hotel that night. And he gets a call from Harrison. He goes, hey, me and my mate want to come up and hang out.
Yeah.
So they came up, and it's Dylan. It's him and Dylan.
Wow.
And so he didn't know what to do. He ordered some caviar. And he said Dylan's dog. Dylan had his dog with him,
Uh-huh.
and the dog ate all of the caviar.
Wow.
So Michael said, and then Dylan had not said a word all night. He finally goes, "Far out, man. The dog loves caviar." That's all he ever said all night.
Somebody once, a friend of mine who's in the business, offered to introduce me to Dylan privately.
Right.
To bring me over for a private. And I said, no,
No, you should have done it. Come on, bro.
No. I'm so arrogant. I'm so dumb. I thought if Dylan wants to meet me, like I did a show with Steve Martin. I did a stand-up show just for laughs in Montreal. And after the show, like, do you want to say hi to Steve and take a picture? And I thought, did Steve ask? I've been on to meet. And they said no. I said, no, it's okay. Like if Dylan, my fantasy is that these people want to meet me.
Well,
it's absurd.
You know what? Well, you never know.
No,
I mean, you're a pretty popular comedian, and you're going to get more and more popular. So, yeah, someday, who knows? But a Dylan meeting would be, that's a rarity.
I'm putting it out here. I have wanted.
You ought to do it.
I want to interview Bob Dylan because I'm.
Well, that's your thing. Have him on the podcast.
Well, I
bet he'd do it.
Feeling. I don't know how I would get in contact, but I have a feeling. Dane has been encouraging me to reach out to Dylan. Dane
Cook,
you should another
do
comedian.
it.
He goes, this
our
is
buddy.
Yeah, he goes, this is your guy. I think I understand, and I could be wrong, but I feel like I understand Dylan enough that.
I'm just glad we can hear the gardener.
Oh yeah, that's the last week when Jamie Kennedy was here, they came right up to the trailer. They were like,
see that's added ambience. I love it.
No, this is for real. This is
well. Next time we're gonna mic the guy.
This is Big Yellow. This is the name of the studio.
Oh, is it? Oh, I like that.
And do you know? And you're wearing yellow, which I appreciate.
Well, I wanted to coordinate with the trailer.
Do you know why it's called Big Yellow?
Because it's yellow.
No.
Why?
Where did the band?
Oh, yeah.
Live from Big Pink.
Big Pink. Yeah.
So I go, this is Big Yellow.
Oh,
so,
you are a Dylan guy.
Oh, I'm a Dylan guy. So I was thinking when you were telling the Cheech and Chong story.
Yeah.
It reminded me of, and you're touching your stomach. Are you going to throw up?
No.
Did I make you sick?
No.
I thought it reminded me of, remember Mort Saul?
Oh, of course.
So
I knew Mort Saul.
Yeah. So what do you want to tell that story first, or do you want? Because mine's pretty remarkable.
Oh, I want to hear yours. Mine's pretty boring.
I was
hanging out with him at Starbucks. That's all.
Yeah. My parents said you should, when I was in Boston, I think I'd come home from college for the summer. They knew I was interested in comedy. And they said, Mort Saul's playing this theater and you should go see him since you love Woody Allen so much. Now, I have to put a big asterisk with Woody Allen because now he's been Me Too'd. So what heroes are we allowed to discuss anymore? I don't know.
Very few, yeah.
Yeah. So I said, okay, so I think it was a Hasty Pudding. Maybe it was Harvard. It was somewhere. But I called him up. And in those days, you could volunteer to usher and see the show for free.
Ah, okay.
So that's what I did. I called the theater. I said, I'd like to usher. And of course, I've been doing, I was one of these idiots. I've been doing comedy probably a year, and I told everybody there that I was a comedian.
Oh, no. Okay. Of course.
And I'm here to see Mort. And they told Mort, and Mort said, bring him backstage.
Oh, my gosh.
So I said to Mort, he goes, who do you, because I knew the history of Mort with the Hungry Eye in San Francisco and that whole scene. And I knew that he had influenced Woody Allen.
Yeah.
My dad told me, if you like somebody like a Woody Allen, then read everything that Woody Allen read, do what he did. So I read, Benchley and Perlman and all these authors and started to listen to people like Mort Saul. And so I said, Woody Allen, and he said, I got a story for you. And I said, okay. He said, I was, performing at the Hungry Eye in San Francisco. And for the people that don't know Mort Saul, he was a political comic who would go up there with a newspaper. Yeah. And he would just go over the day's events, which is...
Well, he was multitasking. He was getting his newspaper reading in and doing a show.
Yeah. And he was always had a red sweater with a white shirt coming out of it. That was his look. And so he said, I'll tell you a story about Woody. He said, I was at the Hungry Eye, and this is like the 60s, and I finished my show, and this young guy came up to me. Now I'm thinking, this is like me going up to him. He's got the glasses, and and he's very nebbish.
Very didactic. And,
and he said, Woody said, now that I've seen you and what you do, you've changed my life. And he sort of like, dismissed it. And then he said, several years later, there is the guy. He's now the biggest director out there and comedian. And he's huge. And cut to a few years later, he said, I'm in New York City. I'm in the Russian tea room, which is now closed.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, not because of the invasion. Not because of the Ukrainian war. It's now closed. And this used to be, did you ever go to the Russian tea room?
I never have, but I always wanted to.
Yeah, I went there. It was like an institution.
What was it like?
I don't know. It was like to me, it was like Disneyland. It was all decorated like the Kremlin.
They invaded Tavern on the Green. Did you know that?
Frazer's back.
Come on, man.
So anyway, he said Woody Allen was sitting in a back room all by himself, and he said he was eating borscht. He said, which is like Jewish beet soup or Russian Jewish. And he says sitting there, and he said I tried to approach him, and the staff stopped me. And he said, okay, fine. He goes, but could you tell Mr. Allen that the man that changed his life says hello? And Mort says he finished his meal, and he's walking down the pavement, and he can hear somebody running up to him, which I don't know how you hear in New York, but he heard somebody running up to him, tapped him on the shoulder, turns around, it's Woody. Woody gives him a big hug. And he says, thanks, Mort. Can you change me back?
Wow. Wow. Right.
Meaning like Mort ruined his life.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought of when you told the Cheech and Chong story. You go, why did they tell you? You should have stayed in Detroit.
Yeah,
you should have stayed.
Probably.
Yeah.
Even though it is Detroit.
Yeah. And this is what, when I looked at your bio, I go, this guy's done K-Rock, KLRS, KT, K Bob, K Sim. You've done every, he's done every K station. I never heard of a K station growing up because it was WBCN, WZLX, WAAF. And that's when
And Boston had the best radio, too.
Yeah. And I Googled, I'm like, what do the call letters mean? And sure enough, the Mississippi divides. Everything west of the Mississippi is a K, and everything east is...
Yeah, you didn't know that?
What do you mean I didn't? Of course I didn't know that.
Come on, Orny.
I'm new at this.
Do your homework.
I'm new at this.
So anyway,
you don't know who this is. You don't know who.
It's the Shadow.
Sergeant Preston of the Northwest.
This is Sergeant
Preston. Okay, yeah.
Swiftest and strongest lead.
He's one of the
dog breaking
swiftest and
trail
strongest
in the
of all the.
Listen to the theme song for a second.
In the wild days of the Yukon.
See, that signifies
Back to the
wild
days of the gold rush as Sergeant Preston with his wonder dog Yukon King.
Yukon King.
It was a dog. People used to sit around and listen to this stuff.
Oh yeah, this was great.
This is the Yukon, the territory patrolled by Sergeant Preston.
Theater of the mind.
Yeah,
this is
wild. So what happened was, I was home in
the
Boston last weekend for my dad's birthday.
The Great Bend Trading Post,
and
a lonely depot 100 miles south
came
of
on.
Dawson.
You know Mendelsohn, the conductor.
Yeah.
And
a supply center for prospectors and miners
You
during
better
the
bring Sergeant Preston down there.
So where's the Wikipedia on this whole thing? Because it's pretty wild. So I was home. I'm sitting there with my dad. We're having a great time. He always has classical music on. They're very, very sophisticated like that. Where's page 2? Oh, here we go. And Felix Mendelssohn Symphony No. 4 in A major, OP.90 Italian, I.Allegro Vivace. Why don't they settle down on naming these?
That's a long playlist.
That's the name of the. Look at that.
By the time you did that, you have to go to commercial.
That's one song. Felix Mendelssohn. Do you need your glass? It's Symphony No. 4 in A major. Okay, that's enough, right? OP.
That's all you need.
Italian in parentheses. Then there's a dash. There's an I.Allegro Vivace.
By the time you announce the band, your show's over.
That's not even the band. That's the song.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And that's the song. So that came on the radio, and I said, this always reminds me of my comedy special because that's the intro music I use in my set.
Is it really?
Yeah, here it is, and I can play this. I own this. So when I put this up on YouTube, don't take this down for a strike. I own the copyright for this music. I'm not playing the music. I'm playing a clip from my special, okay? This song.
See, and there the people are clapping for
clapping.
Orny.
That's right.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for waiting.
We made them wait.
Welcome, Orny Adams.
Yeah, there you go.
And right there sounds a little bit like the Yukon Jack theme.
A little bit. And you know, you came out in that red plaid shirt. And
yeah, with my dog.
The dog and the crazy hat. You were the Yukon King.
So here's where this all ties in. It used to be called The Challenge of the Yukon. It's an American radio adventure series that began on Detroit's WXYZ.
Well, that's a famous old station in Detroit.
And it's an example of a northern genre story. The series was first heard January 3rd, 1939. The title changed from Challenge of the Yukon to Sergeant Preston of the Yukon. So Sergeant Preston must have nailed this.
Well, no, what he did was that was in his new contract.
Yeah.
I want my name in the title.
In September 1950. So this song, which reminded me of something near and dear and special to me, reminded my father of this. Enough with the leaf blow. How many
I
leaves?
like this guy. He's my favorite part of the podcast so far.
The program was an adventure series about Sergeant Frank Preston.
He's got an album too. He wants to come on and promote.
This reminds me of something. Yeah.
It's a whole symphony done in leaf blowers.
He led a sled dog Yukon King as they fought evildoers in the northern wilderness during the gold rush of the 1890s. The series began on the radio in 1938, continued through 1947, then it changed its name, became a TV show. Anyway, you learn the weirdest things about your dad.
Well, and now we know where George Bush got evildoers.
He's, yeah. Well, they were fighting these people.
He stole it from Sergeant Preston.
Yeah. I'm going to hold up
By the way,
something.
speaking of Boston radio,
Yeah.
well, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Boston Radio.
I did a show. I did a week-long show at Kiss Boston. Are you familiar with that station, Kiss Boston?
Of course, I remember. Kiss played more dance,
and
clubby.
who was their morning guy?
I don't even listen to him.
Oh gosh,
I remember
can't think.
Charles Lockwood era, WBCN.
Yeah.
And the big mattress.
This was I can't think of Sandy in the morning. I don't know. Anyway, he was a famous guy in Boston, and every year he would take a week vacation, and they'd bring in some big celebrity. They'd bring in like Jay Leno or somebody like that to come at Chevy Chase to do the fill-in for the week, and they'd pay you a bunch of money. And so they brought me in one time. So I flew out there with Jamie from the Laugh Factory. Jamie Masada was my sidekick.
Wow.
And the people of Boston wanted to kill him.
Why?
So
now
going,
two
buddy,
cities.
Buddy.
Two cities want to kill him.
Oh my God. He was insane. You know, he's insane.
Yeah.
And I always laughed. I couldn't stop laughing when he was on the mic. He was just so crazy. He's the owner of the Laugh Factory, folks. And he's a really cool guy. He's our friend.
Yeah.
And he has this accent, and I'm not even sure what the accent is.
He claims he's Iranian. It's a Persian accent.
He's Sephardic, yeah.
But it's not. None of this has been confirmed.
Nobody can confirm it, and no one can figure out exactly what he's saying. But he, he gets on the radio and he just starts going crazy.
Yeah.
And the people of Boston just totally were enamored with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not in a good way.
No, we did a lot of crazy stuff on there, and then we went to the Beanpot hockey tournament one night, and everyone recognized Jamie, and they were like, "There he is, that guy from the radio, buddy." It's wild.
This Jamie Masada owns the Laugh Factory. That's a club that I'll be at this weekend.
Yeah,
you play there all the time too.
Yeah,
and he's just, I don't know what to make of him. I mean, he's a friend. During COVID, Jamie started calling me like every night, and would have these hour-long discussions. And if you asked me what we talked about, I couldn't.
No, you can never figure it out.
I don't know.
But he was really mesmerizing to the people of Boston.
He's a fascinating. He's charismatic. He puts on holiday services for the high holidays for the Jews every year in Los Angeles. He gives away turkeys at Thanksgiving.
Oh, he's a very generous person and magnanimous.
Yes.
Guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish he'd pay the comedians.
Well, he's not so magnanimous with us, but yeah.
For the people watching, and Frasier, you got to pay for it. You got to go to Patreon if you want to see this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
I have to pay to see my own interview?
No, you can wait about 6 months and it will be on YouTube.
You know what a cheapskate I am. Of course, I'll wait.
But I'm holding up here. This is, look at this, Frasier. This is,
wow.
It's a sketch.
Of you and you're doing your first show?
I was in Sarasota, Florida last weekend, or maybe it was 2 weekends now. No, maybe it was last weekend. Frasier, I had one of these weekends where I was playing Sarasota. I was playing McCurdy's Comedy Club, which I love. And then I played a theater for old people, and that went great. They even, you know,
Is that the name of the place?
Theater for Old People. Yeah. I go. I thought the people in Sarasota were old. You know, these people.
Wow.
But in Sarasota, I look over, and to the right, I'll just you can take a look at it. Go ahead. To the right, because I have not really examined it. It appears to me there's a woman at the table, and she's on her phone. And I just want to scream because the show's going so well. But she's sort of like her hand is going like sort of like under the table. And after the show, she came up to me and handed me this.
That's very nicely done.
Yes. You know, they don't allow photography. So now it's like I'm on trial. And I've got like the court sketch artist. Well,
I noticed they blurred out your face too, or I don't know if that's on purpose, but
I don't think she got a chance to finish it. Maybe I don't know. But
well, you're safe from the cops anyway.
I said to the club, I go, "What's the deal with that?" And they said, "Oh, she's here every week." I go, "Well, why not give me a heads up that there's going to be someone sketching me?"
Well, and by the way, you've got a phone. Take a photo,
right?
Instead of a sketch, which takes forever to do.
But maybe this is
But it's nicely done. I like it.
Maybe this is worth something. I don't know.
Well, we'll see when you blow up to a big star, which could be any day now.
It looks like her name is Marlena. Maybe that's a
You've got an original Marlena.
It says Orny on the screens. Right, my face is. Looks like there's a drum set behind me and another microphone.
I don't know where she came up with that.
Looks like Ringo's going to come up.
Maybe she started another drawing with a band and then.
But like I felt really special. I go, look at this. I have moved somebody to come in with their crayons and sketch me, and then it turns out they do this every week. I'm just another, you know.
Well, I think you were her favorite, though. Let's be honest.
No, Frasier, I don't want to.
Come on,
I don't want to hear it anymore.
Come on,
I really
buddy.
don't. I'm so tired of. Listen to this. I went to the gym. I go to the gym. You work out, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. I go to the gym. I can't get the app to. Every time do you go to like coffee places? I don't want to name.
Well, occasionally, yeah.
And you have an app. And you open the app, and you know they go, "Oh, you owe so and so." You go, "Oh, let me open my app." It takes 5 seconds. The gym, it's taken about 3 minutes to load this app, and then for the membership card to come up, and the whole time I'm questioning whether I even paid. So as I'm waiting for it to come up, I just start casual conversation with the guy at the front desk saying, "Oh, you know, I'm really trying to figure out if anybody else has had this problem with the app." Right. And this is actual live audio. I'm bringing not live.
This is the guy.
I didn't record him because I'm just waiting for the app to come up. But this is my reaction. You'll hear the background of the gym. I'm bringing me out in the streets. This is real. This is deep.
Man, you are in the streets.
This is real.
I love it.
To the gym. The app for the gym, which has my membership card on it, is so slow. Like you open it, but it takes forever to open. And so I was just like sort of like complaining generally to the guy in the front as I was waiting for it to come up and then hit my membership card, which takes even longer to come up. And so here's what he said. So this is what you want to do. You want to open the app before you come in. I thought
Good
it was
advice.
Say, you need to reboot your phone, you need to uninstall, you need to reinstall. That's the old version. His solution was, don't waste my time. Do it at home, and then when you're here, just be prepared and ready to go.
Well, that is good advice.
I guess so, but I mean, like isn't that what my comedy is based on? Just idiots.
Idiots like that.
Yeah.
Well, idiots do give you a lot of your material. You got to admit.
But does this guy not?
Thank God for idiots.
Right, but does this guy not think that I couldn't come up with that on my own? Like, is that the general disclaimer they're giving everybody that comes into the gym?
Yeah, probably.
This is
he doesn't want anybody wasting his time.
Yeah,
because he's an important guy.
I guess so.
You know, he's got stuff going on up there at the front desk.
But he looked at me like, he goes, "Well, what you want to do?" And I go, "Oh, here it is. Good. I'm not
something.
This is
important technical information.
It used to be clear the cookies.
Yeah,
it used to be something.
No, just do it at home.
Do it at home
before you get here.
Before you get here. Have it on
solid advice.
Yeah,
solid.
We have. Are you finding that you're getting encountering dumber and dumber people? And is it the world changing, or are we just getting older?
Probably both. You know, everybody when they gets older gets cranky, don't you think? And I think I find myself doing that. But I think there do seem to be more knuckleheads out there than before.
Right. Do you think it's getting worse?
Yeah.
This guy's still blowing.
Guy,
yeah.
He's number one in my chart. This leaf blower dude. I kind of like the guy, though.
Well, what I love about this is, okay, so like when I set this up, the camera lighting was perfect, but somehow there's been a shift in the lighting. So
Do we have to stop?
I
and
look
fix
darker. No, you look great. You're well lit.
Well, that's because I did my own lighting.
Yeah, you look good. But
Thanks, buddy.
I think
I'll
I'll
do all my own tech.
Post, I'll be able to bump it up.
You'll bump it up. Come on.
I mean, who really gives a
Nobody
shit?
cares.
Nobody cares.
People don't care these days.
They
about
don't
the quality of video or audio or anything.
I could have the biggest. You know what? I'd have Bob Dylan on here, and I'd say, "All right, here we go," and then nobody would listen to it. Like,
well, you know, I told you the story about I did a pilot, a Zoom pilot. During COVID, we were doing Zoom pilots.
yeah.
And I did one, and Alice Cooper was my guest, and they sent him the wrong link. And so here's Cooper waiting like this. I mean, he's a very gracious
The wrong
guy.
Zoom link?
Yeah. And
Who screwed that up?
the
Jamie at the Laugh
No,
Factory?
the place we were shooting this, but yeah, I was so mad. And so he's like this, but he's really a gracious guy.
Mhm.
He didn't get weird or anything.
Yeah.
But I just felt weird.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, hurry up, you idiots. Come
And
on.
how was he on the pilot?
He was
more importantly?
fantastic.
What part did he play?
He just was. It was just an interview. It was an interview. I had him and Dane Cook were my guests, and they were both great. And I thought
You didn't think to ask me, maybe? Too?
well, it was only room for 2 people on this particular podcast thing. But next time I do a pilot, you will be.
What I've noticed now,
I'll call you and Mort Saul.
there's so many people doing. Mort's dead,
Oh,
and
then he
rest
won't
in
do it.
peace.
Yeah, I loved him.
Probably buried in his red,
Probably
cardigan.
in the sweater. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw him the next day walking around Harvard Square, and he was still wearing that red sweater.
Isn't
Like
that
he
weird?
Never came out of character.
Well,
Buying his newspapers.
some people don't.
Yeah,
I used to think Rodney had it cool. He had like the red tie and the blue suit.
yeah.
and-
There were a lot of these guys were doing.
It's like
great.
a uniform.
Yeah, Harvard Square had a place that's now out of business called Out of Town News. It's
Right.
such a bummer. They had every newspaper in the world, and like how they got like the West Coast papers and the overseas papers in the morning.
Yeah, how do they do that?
I never figured it out, but I used to, as a young comedy writer, this is how dedicated I was to the craft. I used to go in to Harvard Square and buy all the newspapers at that place and then go back and start writing. And I used to submit to the Tonight Show. And
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
the first joke,
Did you ever get one on the air?
the first joke I got on the air
What?
got booed. Got
Oh,
booed.
no, really? All right, Orny.
I should have gotten out of the business
Oh,
then.
no. That was a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since then, I did the Tonight Show several times. I even did it one time with Barack Obama. And
How about that?
Jay Leno has become somebody that,
And I heard Barack was like, I hear Orny's on tonight.
well, I'm going to tell you something. This is a true story.
Yeah.
They had to vet me. They couldn't just, let me into the studio. They had to make sure that I wasn't a security risk.
Yeah.
And
How'd you ever get in then?
yeah, no kidding. So I was backstage. And all of a sudden, he comes up and he's got all the Secret Service with him. And he looks at me and he goes, "You're a funny guy." And I thought, this
He
guy.
did say that?
Yeah, but I go, this guy's full of it. There's no way Obama thinks I'm a funny guy. He doesn't know who I am, right? I figured they just said, "Hey," he goes, "who's on the show?" Well, they also have a comedian on. So if you see some, so he's going up to everybody. He's going up to hair and makeup. You're a funny guy, and they're like, "That's hair and makeup." Or the guy, you're a funny. They're like, "No, that's not the comedian." I figured he's just saying it to everybody to
Yeah.
be safe. And sure enough, it turned out they had been watching my stand-up comedy on the plane
See,
over.
They do that.
Yeah.
He did his homework.
So, it's weird to me. Like Obama knows me.
Well, that's
So,
super cool.
yeah. So, and Jay has become somebody that I'm friends.
Yeah,
like he
that's cool,
called me
too.
after my last special. And by the way, he
Jay's
didn't.
cool.
Yeah, he called me several times because I'm not the easiest guy to get in touch with.
Well, no one can reach you because you're always in this trailer,
I saw Leno
hiding from the.
straight to voicemail. Do you have any contact with Tim Allen anymore?
I open for him once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still see him.
So he has a very interesting past, right? Before
Yeah.
he didn't go to jail.
Yep. He was actually caught in Kalamazoo at the airport with some of his buddies smuggling coke.
How much coke? When does it become officially smuggling versus
Well, I don't know.
personal use?
I don't know, but it was a pretty big quantity, I think.
In Kalamazoo in
They have
Michigan?
they have a little airport there.
Right.
And I don't know why he thought he could get through that airport, but he did go to jail for a couple years and got out, and then almost immediately came out here, and then almost immediately got the show on ABC.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And he had a great sort of, I hate to say hook because it sounds, it sounds, condescending or, but he was a tool guy.
Yeah. Well, that was his hook. Yeah. And I think that was his whole angle was making fun of the suburban dad who thinks he knows everything about, handiwork and everything. And most people don't.
But, okay, so when you knew him in Detroit, did you know that side of Tim? Was he?
Well, I think he was always kind of like a car guy. One of those kind of guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he likes tinkering with cars, and he's got a bunch of cars like Leno.
Was he your Coke dealer? That's what I'm trying to.
Well, he was, yes, and that's yeah. Okay,
that's all. I just want to know.
I should have just said that right.
Like after he got busted, who did you have to start buying from?
Well, that was a dilemma for me.
One time
I had to search the town to find a new dealer.
One time I was auditioning for a TV show, and another comic said, "Who's the showrunner?" And the showrunner is the person that created the show. Yeah. And I said the name of the person, and they said, "I don't want to name the celebrity." They go, "That guy, that used to be so-and-so's Coke dealer." And what happens is these people...
That's how it goes.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how you bump up. No pun intended.
Well, I never, like, me. I'm not a hangout.
You're not a drug guy either.
I'm not a drug guy. And I don't hang out. I'm not,
No, you don't. And I think that builds a certain air of mystery around you, if I may say that. I mean, I think sometimes that's actually a good thing.
I don't know.
Because then people think, well, what's he all about? They don't know everything about you.
But nobody seems to care.
Well, but, it still has, maybe less so these days, but I think back in the day, a lot of people did that. It was a mysterious thing. You never saw these guys. Like, it was interesting for me to see Wolfman Jack in American Graffiti. Remember how they would all drive around that night, and they're all thinking, "What does he look like?" And because you never saw that guy, you never saw that DJ,
right? And
so it was a mysterious guy.
Yeah, I didn't do it to be mysterious. I didn't do it as a selling point. I did it because I just feel uncomfortable. I know if I stick around long enough, Frasier, I'm going to say something that's going to upset somebody.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels that way.
Yeah.
I feel that way too.
You go to a party and I come home and I just sit there ruminating, thinking about everything I said wrong. Everything.
I know, because I usually say everything wrong too.
Like the other day, I said something to my hairdresser, got my hair cut on Monday or Tuesday, and I said something that is fine. Like it's okay for me to if I say, well, I would never want to own a dog because they would but it was, I forgot that
they're a dog person.
It was, but it was something more personal. I'm like, so I had to call a friend. He goes, I don't have time to talk right now. I'm like, I need help. I'm like, did I screw up? He goes, no, you didn't mean it. But that's what happens.
I always do that too.
That's why I stopped going.
Did I say the wrong thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're so nice. You're so supportive. Every time I get off stage, you go, Orn, great set.
Well, usually in your case, it really is true. You mean you're very consistent with your performance. You're really, really good.
It's done nothing for me. But thank you.
I'm surprised at that actually. It must be camera 3 being out that's causing you.
Camera 3 is not even I'd have to be seated here for camera 3 to.
That's what it is.
Camera 3 wasn't on. I unplugged.
If camera 3 was picking you up, your career would be much higher up.
Yeah.
You're going to do great, Orny. Just keep rolling. You're very.
I appreciate
very consistent comedian, and not everybody can do that week in, week out. With every crowd.
I don't know.
It's got to be a good feeling, and at some point, the PR will take care of itself.
I don't. At what point? How much longer do I have to suffer?
Another 70 years, Orny. You should be there.
Yeah.
No, it does seem like forever, and sometimes you can't tell why a band or a personality makes it and other people don't make it. Not to knock anybody, just it's hard to tell. Sometimes the people that are great don't get that break.
Yeah.
And
is there anybody, I'll ask both ways. Anybody that broke through, you're not going to want to say, that you were surprised. And on the other side, is there anybody, leave me out of this, that you just go, like a Richard Jenny, how did this guy not become?
Well, Jenny was a good example of someone who should have been huge, because he's one of the best performers ever in comedy. I opened for him for a bunch of years. I had a great time hanging out with Richie. He, legendary comic. And, Leno said it best at his memorial. He goes, he would do the Tonight Show and kill. And Jay would say, well, what are you going to do next? He goes, well, I'm going to go home and write my new hour.
Wow.
And he goes, everyone says that, but like a week later, he had his new hour. That's how good he was, outstanding.
Yeah.
And I don't know why guys like that didn't, you know, get bigger. He still got pretty darn big, but it just, you know, wasn't a huge household name.
Yeah.
And you never know why that is. And you see it with bands, and you see, as far as someone that you didn't see it coming, yeah, you don't want to really name any names, but I'll tell you one that was interesting was George Lopez. George was a good friend of mine, and I knew he would make it. He was just a great stand-up
What was
comic.
it about George Lopez?
He was a tremendous writer when it came to stand-up comedy. He could just write joke after joke, and he was great. And I also knew they needed kind of a new Hispanic star. You know, Paul Rodriguez had kind of, you know, broken the mold for that, and then George was kind of the next guy in line. And but he would come to my house or call me every day for 10 years. Am I going to make it, man?
Really?
Am I going to make it? Yeah.
How needy.
Well,
no, I'm kidding.
we're
all like that.
Yeah,
Fraze,
that's what I mean.
Fraze plays therapist all the time for us. Like,
for everybody. But you know, they're you know, everything's a cry for help, Orny.
Yeah.
But he was I knew he was going to make it, and I kept telling him, yeah, you're going to make it, George. You're going to make it. Finally, I got tired.
Did you mean it, or were you just
no,
like,
I
get
did.
off my phone? Yeah.
No, you know, some people you might do that too, but I knew he was going to make it, and I kept telling him. But we're all very insecure.
Yes.
You know, and comics particularly.
Why is that? And who's more insecure, comics or musicians?
Well, I think probably comics. You know, musicians have at least their other buddies in the band. They can, you know, rally around that. With us, it's just us.
Right.
You know. And, you know, I don't know if you want to discuss this kind of thing too deeply today, but, you know, the whole thing with Chris Rock and Will Smith, the one thing I noticed there, without going into all the details of what went down, is that the comics always seem to be kind of treated secondhand a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, the other night, the Academy stuck up for the bigger star.
We're low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And there's a bounty. The reason there's a bounty on comedians is people think they can come at us. And you're right. There's been some great writing about the Academy Awards. And
well, I love what Eddie Murphy said a few years ago. Remember, he won. What did he win for? Trading Places? I can't remember.
No, that'd be the 80s.
No, it was a ways back when he did this, and he went on when he had his acceptance speech, and he said, "Hey, how come you guys don't treat comedy better?
Right?
Why isn't comedy treated better at the awards? We never get anything.
Never. And what people don't get is to craft a joke, which now you can only tell for one special for a year or two.
Yeah.
And then you got to get rid of it. The Stones are still playing, you know, Satisfaction that they wrote when they were 19. It's like,
we can't do that.
We can't. And you're right. Comedy, I will be dead. And it's really, really one of the things that really gets to me, because I truly, truly, truly love stand-up comedy. I have such respect for the art form. And I feel like when I read articles in the New Yorker on film or the New York Times, whatever it is, and I see the way the way that they did this shot with the trash blowing in the background, and it was film noir, and the director was telling us this. It's like, holy shit. Do you understand that comedy is as complicated and as well thought out as that in a lot of cases? And I don't know why. I'm going to be dead, and they're going to go, I can't believe we didn't give these people more respect all these years. I know it's going to happen. It's not happening in my lifetime.
Well, wasn't it? I think it might have been Oscar Wilde. I don't know, but I think he was dying, and someone said, "How does it feel?" He goes, "Oh, dying's easy." He goes, "Comedy's hard."
Yeah. You know what he also said? They said he knew he was dying, and he looked at the curtains in the room, and he said, "Well, one of us has to go." Wilde was a genius.
Oh yeah.
And you know, you ask a young comedy writer, what's your favorite Oscar Wilde line or whatever, you know, like he had lines like a woman's, oh God, I want to misquote it. I'm not going to quote it because I'll get
Then you'll be calling your friends.
I'll be canceled. I'll be slapped.
Did I say the wrong thing in my podcast?
I'll be slapped. I just like how every comic, including myself, I did an interview that is in Forbes magazine or Forbes.com about the slap. And they're like, "Are you sure you want to say this?" Like, I started out with a joke. Like, this is Forbes. I said, shouldn't we be talking about how the market has rallied 2 days since the slap? Isn't this the slap rally? They go, "You sure you want to joke about it?" Like, and I realized that in print, a lot of things I say,
well, they do. Yeah, print's different.
could be taken the wrong way.
You gotta be careful there. Yeah.
And I understand the complexities. I also wasn't there. I don't know these people. I'm certainly staying out of it. Did you tweet anything? Did you?
No, I didn't say anything.
I called you and gave you a joke.
You did.
Yeah. Don't repeat it. I don't want any credit for it. Well, I go, Fraze, this joke is for you.
But when I do the joke,
no, don't mention
on Saturday night. I tribute you. Yeah, it's a tricky one. You know, but I do think that you know, comics sort of always, you know, take that back seat, you know, to maybe the bigger name stars.
Well, you wonder if the Academy is backstage with a calculator, figuring out who's made more money for them.
You do wonder, and I think we saw what happened there.
I find that there are iterations of this behavior throughout Hollywood, and it's why I never did red carpet. I never went to the parties. I never kissed the right ass. It's why I didn't stick around and have conversations with comics. I just don't fit. I thought I could sit there and put stuff out, and it would be accepted based on the merit of what I put out.
Well, that's how it should be, you know. I guess there is a certain element where you have to schmooze, as they say, to get things going. You know, it's who you know a lot of times. And that is true.
I mean, you must have been frustrated as a radio DJ because, you know, a few really, like, you know, was there a time I heard that you and Howard Stern were neck and neck, or is...
Well, yeah, I was pretty big there for a while. And you do, you know, you go a few years later, you're like, all those guys are multimillionaires. And what happened to me? You know, a lot of it has to do with who's your boss, you know, who's going to back you, who's going to, and I mean, come on, Howard's a great talent. I mean, let's be honest. He's the best at that. But, you know, and Rick Dees was one of my competitors, and he's great talent as well. I'm not knocking the guys at all, but if you run into a boss that will kind of, you know, block for you, then you can go somewhere.
So your boss didn't do this?
Yeah, I really had some guys that I had butted heads with.
And why is that?
Well, I think because I was kind of an early pioneer of that kind of radio.
And what is that? Tell me what.
Well, it's more like free association radio. You're not really so structured. You're just talking and interviewing people and getting wacky on the mic. Yeah. And that kind of thing kind of rubbed some people the wrong way, but it made for big ratings.
Were you a morning guy?
I was morning, yeah.
You were morning. That's like the big spot.
Yeah. And I had L.A. basically on lockdown. I could go anywhere, and you know, I could go to the Forum. That's when the Lakers were you know, they're doing the thing Winning Time now on HBO, and that's how it was a Showtime Lakers, and I would go there, and they'd bring me Mr. Smith right this way.
Wow.
You know, you'd be courtside.
And were you doing stand-up in those days, or
I was just starting to do stand-up. Jamie was my sidekick on my radio show, Jamie Masada.
How did that happen?
Well, this guy that was producing my show he says, I got a sidekick for you. And I go, well, I'm really not looking for a sidekick. I was killing with the ratings. And he goes, no, believe me, you're going to like this guy. So he brought Jamie by. And Jamie was just so annoying that day that I just thought,
I'd love to get a job for being annoying.
I go, I don't know. I go, really, this guy? And he goes, trust me, put him on there. So I had him on there, and we called him Buddy because he kept, that was all he would say. He'd say, hello, Buddy. He called everybody Buddy. So he gets on there, and he just said the wildest things. And I think everyone thought it was an actor putting on the voice, the accent. Yeah. And it really lit up. He had merchandise. He had Buddy.
Come on, really?
Yeah. Beer koozies. I mean, I didn't have any merchandise, and he had all the stuff. Yeah.
Wow. I just sounded like Chris Rock. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, you know, anyway, he had bought this little club, and it was about a third of what it is now. It was really tiny, and it's what the old Greenblatt's was. Greenblatt's was a thin little, you know, deli back in the day, and they had moved next door, and so they were going to lease this out. And Jamie didn't have any money, but he had run into this producer who had, you know, was a big movie producer.
Right.
And the guy liked Jamie. So he goes, all right, I'll give you some money to get the thing started. And that's how he started it. And so Jamie said to me, well, you have to come down and do stand-up at my club. Yeah. And I go, I've never done that. He goes, so come on down there. We do the jokes. You know, so I started going down there, and it was all rookies like me. It was like you couldn't.
Who was on the scene back then?
Well, Mark Price, Mark Skippy Price,
wow, yeah.
Richie Chasler. I don't know that you'd know any of these guys. A guy named Falstaff, Daley Pike. We
It
were
was
all
like
just,
Jim Carrey on the scene at that point?
well, Jim Carrey was at Comedy Store. All those guys were at the store.
Okay.
And nobody from the store would be seen down at the
Because
Laugh
Jamie
Factory.
told me about the time oh, really?
Well, later they all
Yeah.
came down. Later they did. And who started it was Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney started coming down to work on his material. So he would eventually start bringing people. He brought Eddie Murphy there. Here's Eddie Murphy in this tiny little
Wow. What
room.
was he like live?
Unbelievable,
Is there anybody more charismatic?
Probably not. Probably not.
What is it? Is that just God-given?
I think it's God-given. I think, yeah. I mean, he's just got it. And he has that confidence, which is really what a lot
you
of it
watch
is.
Eddie Murphy Raw, which, is 1,000% cancelable at this point.
At this point, yeah.
What he says.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I watch it as, that's really...
He's got all the confidence in the world, and he always has.
But it isn't just... we see confidence every night, and it doesn't move the audience. He moves it. He's just likable.
Well, he's charming and likable.
God,
He's got that all going on.
3% of that, 4%, Frasier. I just,
we can work on that.
No, we can't, Frasier. Nobody, I'm the most uncharismatic, unlikable. Like, nobody goes to lunch with Orny Adams and comes out going, wow, I feel better about myself.
Well, a lot of the people that have the charismatic thing don't have it off stage too.
Jamie has that. Jamie
He does have
Why
it.
are we talking so much about a club owner?
Well, you asked me how I got my stand-up start.
Yeah.
And that was how I did it. Yeah. He said, well, you got to come down here. So I started doing stand-up down there. And eventually all the big guys started coming around. That's when Jim Carrey came down. And
what was he
Dice.
like live?
Fantastic. But what Jim was great at was impressions. And he was like, and I give him a lot of credit, he was a genius impressionist. And crowds would go insane for him. But he realized, I think Rodney Dangerfield they were buddies, and I think Rodney told him, you can only go so far with that kid. And so I think he started to realize, okay, I got to do something else.
Yeah.
So he was killing crowds. So he went into this kind of just free form, just him up there talking out of his butt and all that stuff that he later did. And at first it just didn't work.
Yeah.
But he stuck with it, and he would open for Rodney on the road, and he would just bomb, and no one would be laughing except Rodney.
Yeah.
Rodney's in the wings just howling.
Yeah.
And, Rodney supported him, and he finally got to where that style caught on.
Yeah.
And then he hit it big. He's super talented. But he, I think, had to make that shift. And it wasn't an easy shift.
Yeah.
I think for a while there, he just wasn't getting good response. He stuck it out.
So I'll tell you where I was at this point in my life. I was either in high school, I believe I was in high school, and I was working at a mental hospital in the kitchen, the commissary, we would feed the patients and the doctors. It's a very famous hospital. It's called McLean Hospital. In fact, a lot of musicians actually went there when they had their breakdowns. And you weren't allowed to acknowledge if somebody was famous. In fact, the whole philosophy of the hospital was we don't distinguish between. So when they came, I would work the register sometimes, and I'd have to say patient or doctor, and then patients were free, doctors had to pay. I just hit a button, and I eventually worked security at this hospital.
Oh,
yeah, I have some stories there.
Yeah, that's trouble.
They have the largest brain bank in the world.
And people were stealing brains?
No, but it's creepy when you see
I would be
all these brains. So again, very vocal about my intentions to do stand-up comedy. And one of the other workers gave me a cassette tape. And on the first side was Dice Clay. And on the second side, the B side, was Sam Kinison.
Oh, okay.
This is before shit went viral.
Yeah.
People passed around mixed tapes. And Kinison spoke to me in no other way. I mean,
I met him early.
I
met him early.
It's a desert.
Yeah, he was
We've done this in America. We don't live in them. Yeah, that's God.
Yeah, he was amazing. I met him just after he had left Houston and come here. And he had been a preacher in Houston. And there was a club on Westwood Boulevard, the Westwood Comedy Store. And it was like a annex to the main comedy store. Yeah. So all the up-and-comers would go there. That's where Mitzi had me go. And then the big stars would come down there to practice. And Letterman would go down there. Robin Williams would go down there. They would all go down there to work on their new stuff. Shandling. That's where I met Shandling. And the first night I was there, nobody knew any of these guys. I met Dice, Kinison, Shandling. I think Jim Carrey was there, Robin Williams. What a lineup at this, Annex Club. I'm watching, and I was with Jackson Purdue, and I don't know if you know Jackson. Jackson and I were sitting in the back, and he goes, check this guy out. And it was Dice. And he was the thin Dice.
Yeah.
And he came out, and it took him 5 minutes to light his cigarette. Didn't say anything, and he looked like Fonzie, and he had the black leather, and he was phenomenal.
Have you ever seen Gilbert Gottfried's impression?
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny.
That is hilarious.
And so those are really big comics, and that's West Coast. Are you aware of what's going on the East Coast?
No, not really. I didn't know what was going on there. And I didn't really know these guys. I wasn't really in the comedy world. I didn't know who these guys were. And then Kinison was on that night. And Kinison came on last, and we would always put him on last to drive.
How much of the audience was left? Had people filtered out?
We would put him on to drive the remaining audience out. Seriously. When we wanted to go home,
it's funny.
I was hosting, and I'd be like, get Sam out there.
Yeah,
let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And he would walk the crowd. Honey, get your coat. This guy's crazy.
Yeah.
And he'd be just screaming like he did,
Yeah.
And a great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy and super smart.
I never met him. Another hero of mine. Yeah.
Super cool dude, man. And very, he was very smart. He would scream and act like a maniac, and then he would come back down. Hey, how you doing, Frazer? Just very relatable guy. An amazing guy. Yeah.
Were there comics and don't name names, that you just couldn't get along with, couldn't handle? I mean, you're just such an
I pretty
affable
much
guy.
get along with everybody. It wasn't so much that as it was, how it is. Sometimes you just don't like someone's particular style of comedy. And I would never say that to them, because I know there are other people that do like that style. But I mean, there's certain ones that just don't,
Was that the golden age of stand-up comedy?
Well, I think from our age group it was. I think maybe that era with Rickles and Rodney and those guys. It's hard.
But Rickles was never in the club. How did these guys? I guess they were like.
Well, they had
or...
our Vegas. They do Vegas, kind of what we would call a residency today.
Do you know? And I try and tell the story. I wish it was on video, but the Red Fox story in Vegas. Do you know this story about when he walked out?
Yes, I do know.
Okay, you do.
Yeah,
you do know it.
Yeah.
Where did you hear this story?
Oh, I don't know. I've heard it a million times.
What is the story?
Well, the story is basically that it was a really small crowd in Vegas, and they'd introduce him, and it was a big stage. And the whole thing's playing, the Sanford and Son theme, and he's kind of waddling out there. He was at an age where he was kind of moving slow.
Yeah.
It took him a long time to get out to the mic. And then he realized there was 10 people there. He goes, fuck this. And just turned around and walked back out.
And the band just... So that story is true.
Apparently.
Yeah, I didn't know if I made it up in my head.
No, I've heard it. I've heard it many times.
I wish it was on video.
And another old one was, of course, was the Rickles story about Sinatra.
You make yourself at home?
Well, no, where
Punch somebody?
He was on a date. Rickles was on a date, and he goes up to Frank. He goes, Frank, I'm on this hot date, and could you walk by at some point and just make a little conversation so she knows that I know you?
Yeah.
Right? And so Frank goes, oh, okay, Don, yeah. So Don's having dinner with his date, and Frank walks by. And he goes, oh, hi, Don. And he goes, not now, Frank, I'm busy. Just blew him off.
I mean, Rickles, another guy, got away with everything because he was so charismatic and likable that you just said, this guy's not,
You got to give him credit on that. I mean, he had a lovable personality, except for, he would just rip people apart.
Yeah. But
he was so likable, he could get away with it.
Do you think comedy is bigger than it's ever been?
Well, no, I think during the 80s, Orny, they always call that the heyday.
I called it the golden age.
Yeah. It was every night was sold out. Yeah. Everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point, because when I was playing to bigger crowds when I started, because comedy sold comedy. You went, go into Nick's, I'm going to the Comedy Connection, I'm going to,
and it was always packed.
Stitches, packed. Now I'm a full-time promoter. This is all I do. calls every day. Hey, my agent, have you posted about your shows? I'm like, oh God, I'm so sick of making things. And you just look at every comic. It's become like, it feels desperate because nobody's seeing this shit. It just doesn't do. I post a funny clip. It's like, I don't know what it takes to get traction. Some people just get traction, I guess.
Well, yeah. It's
sorry to turn this into therapy.
No, but it's an open field. You're absolutely right. And I do a hockey podcast with Joe Bartnick. Do you know Joe?
No, I know nothing about hockey.
Well, neither do I. But I'm doing the podcast.
Yeah.
No, I know. But I am kind of a fan. Joe is like a savant. He knows every player in the league. He's unbelievable. He's a comic.
Right.
Opens for Bill Burr. Very good comic. And Andy Piccaro. They're both comedians, and we do this podcast at Bill Burr's studios, the All Things Comedy.
Yeah.
So it's really big with a certain audience.
Right.
But it's mostly that hockey audience, which is good because, there's 20,000 people in every major city that like hockey. So we got a pretty big audience around the world. And do
you want to plug it? Is that what this is about?
Well,
Go ahead.
No,
what do you want to plug?
What I was trying to say, though, is that, that hockey audience hears that podcast. We've been doing it 10 years. No one outside of the hockey world even knows it exists.
I'm going to break some news to you. That's going to shock you. I'm huge in the rugby community.
Oh, I know that.
I'm like,
that.
Yeah. So, I'm thinking of turning this into a rugby. You've got sort of a rugby shirt on.
Why not? I would do that if I were you. People love that rugby thing you do.
Well, you should plug yourself. I mean,
Well, this is called Puck Off, and it's on Stitchers, Spotify.
Yeah. And you also do one at the Laugh Factory, right?
Laugh Factory podcast, too. I do that.
How's that going?
Life of the Party. Good.
Oh, Life of the Party. Does that bump into it? Yeah.
Well, I think it was stolen by Jamie.
Yeah. You are the life of the party. Like, what? Do people listen to this?
I have no idea. See, that was my point. That's what I was trying to get at, is with the hockey thing, I've never had one person that wasn't a hockey fan mention it in 10 years.
But that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's the long tail.
We just want
take
that.
A little here and
we want that audience. Yeah. But I'm just saying, you do it for 10 years, you'd think someone might have heard it. No one. Has come up to me. And with the Laugh Factory thing, same thing. But we've just started that. But, so far I haven't heard a lot of people mention it.
What's the most gratifying aspect of your career so far?
Well, I just think it was being number one.
Radio.
When I was on radio. When you're number one at anything, you feel pretty cool about that, And I was for a while.
If you, snap your fingers and make your career exactly whatever
what would it be? I'd
be?
like a late night TV talk show.
Yeah,
that's what I've always wanted. And
go ahead, ask me a question.
Orny, how'd you get started?
Bum, 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 bum. Well, I'll tell you how it got started. I was waiting tables in Boston, and Cheech and Chong came in, and they said, "You're funny. You should go to California and do comedy."
Of course.
Do you remember the first time we met?
No.
Yeah, I don't.
Laugh Factory. It was Laugh Factory.
Must have been. Yeah.
I know it was around the time of Comedian, the movie.
Yeah, it just has to come up in every interview.
I'm sorry.
This is my Blue Lagoon.
I think it actually worked for you.
I don't know. Did it?
Yeah, people know you from that.
I'm in a trailer in my backyard.
Well, it's a nice backyard.
Yeah. Go ahead. Tell me what your impressions of me were when you saw Comedian. Yeah.
Well, I thought Orny is.
What is that?
I know it's my phone. Hold on a second. I go. Orny is he's a good guy. The movie kind of had
Don't put that because people can read it.
People sort of had you as like not a bad guy, but just a guy in the movie that wasn't portrayed as one of the good guys. You were kind of like the
villain.
The villain.
That's what Sarah Silverman says.
Everybody needs
villain in a documentary.
Everybody needs that. You need that. And but I thought, well, wait a minute, I like Orny. He's cool. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. I thought, they just did that, because they needed a villain.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was bad. I thought, what, people notice you. Really, it's about getting noticed in this town. If people notice you, because like you say, there's a lot of people who are really good who are kind of flying under the radar, and may never get discovered. It's sad when you see that. Yeah,
and I say this almost every podcast. If I was just looking at my career and just looking at me, I would be content. I'd be content. I don't need much more. But when you sit around in front just to see who just got this and who's doing. And you're like, damn it!
I know.
I should be doing.
I know.
More.
You know what? The weird thing is too, and I don't think. Well, sometimes there's people you don't. But I think most of the time you're happy when you're friends and when people do well. You're like, oh man, I'm glad he got that. That's exciting. That's great. So many of my friends have made it big, and when they weren't big, and they are big, and but I'm happy for all of them.
Well, I'm happy
for all of them. But what happens is you start thinking about yourself. You're not really putting them down or saying that they shouldn't have that.
But I'm more. You know what? I'm
like, well, how come I didn't get a break there?
Yeah. I'm more happy when I feel like somebody really deserves it. So when I hear Earthquake just got a special on Netflix, I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
That guy's put in the time.
He's awesome.
That guy's funny.
Yeah,
I used to play his club in Atlanta.
Did
I'd be the only white person there. And I would.
He's a cool dude, man.
Oh, man, Earthquake.
I love him.
I hope this special does stuff for him because there's a guy that's put in his time. I like when people put in their time.
And then they get that reward. Yeah. No, I do too.
I'd like to see someone who's got a calloused career.
But look, that was the thing with Lopez. He called me every day for 10 years, and he did make it big.
Mm-hmm. And what has he done for you since?
Well,
is he still calling you every day?
No, but I am his gardener.
Yeah,
I'm over there. I've got a leaf blower too.
Frasier, where can people find you?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not even sure.
Do you have a website?
I have nothing. I'm on MySpace.
I saw that coming.
Well, I basically am. I mean, that's about this. Basically, I used Spotify and
what's on Spotify?
Stitchers for the
for your
hockey.
Is there any stand-up comedy of you
on
Sirius?
Yeah, I think on YouTube. You can find some on YouTube.
Yeah.
And
I find a lot of people find my comedy on Sirius Radio. Thank you, Sirius. Spotify.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm hoping to be back on KLOS soon, too. 95.5 KLOS.
You were on a couple of years ago, right?
You were
like, Warren, come over. I want you to be a guest. You arrive at 3 a.m. I'm like, no, thanks.
No, I was on actually.
Friday night.
Yeah, it was Sunday night. And they kept moving me around. But I was on Sunday night. The show was doing great until COVID.
Yeah.
But
why? But that should make it do even.
Well, the thing is that our station, most stations now, Sirius and everybody, has DJs doing a home setup like this, and they do it from their house. But my station doesn't do that. So I didn't get that option. They just ran automated. The machines have taken over.
They have.
Come on, man.
Machines are ruining our lives.
They really are.
If you don't know Frazer Smith is a stand-up comedian, and you have that likability. You say your jokes, you're doing like dad jokes up there that
most people would get killed for.
Booed.
Yeah.
Slapped. Fraser should be slapped. I don't want to say because then you'll get slapped. But you get like the audience just loves you. It's really it's magnificent to watch.
Well,
really
thank you for saying that, buddy.
And you're getting away with. You're still doing OJ jokes from 25 years ago. I mean, it's
how about that? I did do an OJ joke recently.
I know.
You want to hear it?
I know. Yes, of course.
Okay, I go. They just convicted Jussie Smollett. And I go, nobody really ever bought his story, did they? Even OJ's like, come on, bro.
Bum, 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 I want a theme song like that. So like Frazer Smith. Thanks for coming on, buddy. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Orny.
Wasn't that fun?
I had a great time. Next time, let's get camera 3 working. More close-ups.
This is actually Harlan Williams singing.
Harlan Williams, our buddy, the comedian.
Yeah. And his cousin Kevin, who's in the
from Bare Naked Ladies.
There you go.
All right.
How much fun did we have?
Well, we had a lot of fun, and I'm going to talk to Dylan, and we'll try to get him to come by and do your show, and then he can maybe redo this song.
I would be your friend for life. I would not abandon you like George Lopez has after you were his therapist for 10 years.
Can you believe that?
I don't think I've ever met George, but I have such respect for his work.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank Ernesto Hurtado for mastering this audio. Then he gets it up on Spotify, gets it up on Apple, iTunes.
Awesome.
He's
amazing.
Does it
all, man.
Yeah. If you want the video immediately, you've got to go to patreon.com/Orny. If you want to, I forgot, I have a letter. I'll read this on the next one. A fan email from, you're not going to believe this. People listen to this stuff. Where is he? He's in Romania.
What?
Jamie Kennedy was on last week. He's now the biggest comedian
In Romania?
But if
Oh,
you want to email
I
with
see
me,
a tour.
Yeah, if you want to email me, the email is...
He'll be opening for Vlad the Impaler.
The email is... what is it? The email is what's wrong at ornyadams.com.
There you
What's
go.
wrong at ornyadams.com. You can go to what's wrong... teamwhat'swrong.com for all the links and all that sort of
You
stuff.
have a team?
I have a team. No, you become part of the team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Frasier, why don't you just give out your telephone number?
Well, why not? No one's used it in years.
Dude, thank you,
Orny.
Orny. You're
Had a great
amazing.
time, man.
You're amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Camera 3.
Thank you.
for
Appreciate it.
doing nothing for me.
That was
I
fun.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Jared. That was really good.
Was that okay?
Oh, that was great. How about you? You like it?
Good. I loved it.